Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what it is that we focus on, which is the digital divide. And that really includes five elements: affordable internet service, internet-enabled devices, whether that's a tablet, a smartphone, a laptop, that meet the needs of a user, access to digital literacy training, quality technical support. And I love this last one, which is talking about applications and online content that enables and encourages self-sufficiency, participation, and collaboration. So this is a small diagram that shows how the CDE operates. And again, if you'll remember what we talked about in the beginning, we aren't just about what the services we can provide. We really aim to be a convener of a lot of different organizations that are working in the digital equity ecosystem. So we have our digital navigation services, and through that, we collect a lot of data that also helps inform our advocacy. And we work with both residents, private citizens, and public organizations and companies. They all have a key in helping to determine the work that we do and how we can best meet the needs of residents in our area. And this goes into a little further detail on the differences between our organization, how we view advocacy, and how we view adoption. So our advocacy, it's really focusing on the policy, what else is happening in the organization. It also looks at a lot of data on both what we're doing as an organization, but in a broader sense of what is being done to promote digital equity throughout our region. And so we're going to today talk the most about our digital navigation and technical support services. And maybe you all have seen a similar image before. We really like this one because it does a great job of explaining that while equality is everyone having the same thing, which seems, a really good thing also, equity is about having the right thing for your own circumstances. And so organizationally, when we think about our services and the ways that in which we're going to develop processes, we really think about these questions that you see here. Who's advantaged? Who's disadvantaged? What are our unintended consequences? And what are the impacts of the decisions we're making about the work that we do? So would love to have a little interaction through the chat today. Um, if you guys could type in your answers of what comes to mind when you hear the term digital navigator, or have you had any experience with a digital navigator? Feel free to just, yeah, put in any, there's no wrong answer. We really would love to get a pulse on what you're thinking of when you hear that term. Okay. Seeing lots of great answers about communication, assistance, helping others understand technology, navigating digital resources, maybe not a lot of experience with one so far. Um, Navigating cyberspace, that all tracks. AOL, Safari. Um, Great. Lots of good answers. Thank you for that. And if we'll go to the next slide. So the official definition is digital navigators are individuals who address the whole digital inclusion process. So if we're thinking back to those aspects that can contribute to a digital divide, it's not just technical help, but it may also be home connectivity to the internet, devices, and the skills. Another key aspect of digital navigators is that they may provide repeated interaction. So really high level customer service, not maybe the same experience that you have when you call an IT help desk, or um, maybe even a internet provider where, that person on the other end of the line, maybe they're getting paid more if they get through you really quickly, or they pass you on to the next person. The goal with a digital navigator is to provide that one-on-one help that is very particular to your needs. And so at the CDE, we focus on very specific things that we help individuals with. And the reason we classify them this way is it does help us when we're collecting data. Again, and we use that data to help inform the type of services that we continue to offer. So we help sign up for free or affordable internet. Here in Charlotte, we're lucky to have a program where the city has partnered with Spectrum to actually provide free internet to several housing apartment communities throughout the city. We help people find a low cost device. Currently, we also have the ability to add folks to a waiting list to receive a free device. We might help troubleshoot basic technology. So whether that's someone calling and saying, oh gosh, I forgot how to charge my phone or where to find the internet icon on my computer, or it might be in person, really helping them navigate the device that they're using. And then helping them sign up for digital classes, whether that is something that is happening at a community partners location. For instance, the libraries often have amazing classes, or we are starting to offer some skilling ourselves. We also have some online platforms that we might connect someone to if that's a good solution for them. And how we work is in Mecklenburg County, you can call 311 and ask to be connected, or there's an online form that anyone can fill out, and that gets in our system, and then you receive a call back from one of our digital navigators. So we're going to interact with our chat one more time. I'm very curious. I know you guys have a vast amount of experience in working with older adults. What specific challenges have you noticed that older adults face? Or what experience have you had with assisting older adults directly with technology? I see a question about similar service in other communities. Yes, the concept of digital navigation is nationwide. So there's many other organizations like ourselves that exist in a similar capacity. And then further on in the presentation, we're going to talk about a special program we have that is running statewide. So seeing some issues with devices as well as internet access. We do see that a lot of folks may be more likely to have a smartphone than a laptop. So we think about that when we're talking about all the different online platforms that people may try to access. Don't have an email account. That's a big one, because anytime you go to set up an account with anything online, for the most part, you need an email. So that speaks to that one-on-one attention where you think it's just you're going to help with one thing, but really to accomplish it fully, you have to have several interactions and go through multiple steps. Online account with banking, yeah. Logins, passwords, that's also a big deal. A lot to remember. Fear, anxiety, we definitely see that as well. It's a big deal to learn something new, and with how fast technology is changing. I mean, look at us in the beginning, right? Our technology was not working, and that feels like a scramble and feels, can raise your anxiety. So it does require a level of patience and getting used to, okay, things don't always work the first time, but we can just stick with it. Being dependent on others, accessing help. Yeah. It's we talk a lot in our organization about how hard it is to take care of your everyday things like interacting with your healthcare provider or banking when you don't have digital access. And so it's become a barrier um, to being able to participate. Reading or listening to books, that's a great way, especially as there may be changes that you experience as you age with your eyesight. And so having another medium to be able to interact with things you enjoy, like books, is a great solution. Yeah, I'm seeing some about internet access. So that's a big deal. Certainly in Mecklenburg County, we have the benefit of being a fairly urban area. And so we have that connectivity, but we know that's not the case for everyone. And certainly within North Carolina, saw huge issues, right, with our friends that experienced a lot of damage due to the Hurricane Helene. And that has impacted internet in a big way. Thank you for all of those different things that you've said in the notes. So now I'm going to hand this over to Kiana to talk about a program we have going on that deals specifically with offering some digital navigation services and building ecosystems for older adults throughout the state of North Carolina.
Thank you, Sherry, for that warm welcome. Good morning, everyone. So, now that we've learned a little bit more about digital navigation and what the CDE does, and just overall digital navigators, how can we apply that to older adults? So, that's where this project was born out of the Ageless Digital Access Program. Try saying that a whole bunch of times, you'll get tongue twisted just like I did. But the idea of this project was to open up this network of opportunities to give those older adults in North Carolina devices, access, and digital skills. If I'm not mistaken, I think the numbers are still set at where North Carolina is comprised of half or more of older adults. So it's a large population to cover. So in this project, we wanted to focus on two things, on older adults, but then also community organizations and nonprofits who also serve those older adults. So how we wanted to achieve this for older adults is by addressing that social isolation. In the chat, you guys gave such great answers for the last question, and that really addresses a lot of the confidence and skillings that they'll need. They really just need a good push, and we wanted to give that for them. But then also create those additional pathways to confidently connect. I saw that a lot throughout the chat as well. Confidence, confidence, confidence is key, and we want to implore them with that. And then, of course, access and utilize any local resources and services in those communities. As we know, every region, every community in North Carolina does not look the same. And so they're going to need different resources for that. So we want to point them in that right direction. And then finally, maintaining engagement in the community. Just because they've aged a little bit does not mean that they should not be a part of the community in the technology world. Everyone should. And so we want to give them that confidence and that self-start to do that. But then again, like I said, on the flip side, we also want to make sure that the organizations serving are also benefiting from this project. So through this, we are giving them guidance and training and best practices on how to improve the lives of older adults. And we'll get into that a little bit later on how we hope to achieve that. And then finally, create a statewide network of highly capable people of teaching aging adults digital skills at various skill levels. And that is where we get into our own digital navigators. So just to give you an overview of the project and just how it came to life, we did a little timeline. So about October of last year, funds were acquired by the Division of Aging through ARPA funds to pilot this project. And so that's where the CDE comes in and we say, hey, I think we wanna put our feet in the sand a little bit and try this one out. So that's where we are contracted to build a comprehensive toolkit for digital navigators. And this toolkit is to help digital navigators just navigate navigate older adults and organizations that serve them a little bit better. So November of 2023, that's where I come on in, and the toolkit starts to get created. It's actually created with a couple of people in this room. We had pilot teams, as we call them, where we worked with the different areas, agency on aging. We worked with some of the directors there to create that. And then in about January, that's when the project was officially named the Ageless Digital Access Program, or Ageless Access, as we like to call it. And then in June is when the toolkit is completed and revised. So we sent it out to everyone who helped us create the toolkit to really get their viewpoint on what is it that we did well on, or what is it that you want to see more of. So we got that up and running on a live site, and it is also available in a PDF version. And then August of 2024, of course, we realized there's going to need a lot of training for the digital navigators to go out into the field and do the awesome work that we do. And so the CDE thought to ourselves, if we feel that we're already successful with our digital navigators that we have here in Mecklenburg County, we would love the opportunity to train and kind of build up the digital navigators that will come out of this project. And so that happened in August. And then in September to just last week, we hosted 2 rounds of training centered around what is the foundations of what it means to be a digital navigator. And this foundations training is what we actually give to all of our digital navigators that come out of the CDE. And we tweaked it a little bit just to make sure that it addressed the needs of older adults. And then we also talked about HubSpot. We spent about 2 or 3 days on our HubSpot training. That is a CRM that our digital navigators use, and on this project, the digital navigators will also use. This CRM is really going to help us record all the interactions, all of the different folks that digital navigators talk to, and the services that they provide. That way, we're able to accurately capture the data and give it to the state to say, look, we are doing great work. And then finally, we had a training on the toolkit itself. So if you ever look at the toolkit, you'll think, oh my gosh, that's a pretty massive thing. It is pretty massive. And so we wanted to give all digital navigators the proper training on how to navigate it and use it in their everyday job. And so what we have here is a little outdated because some of these things have changed. But in the project, we have 11 digital navigators, principal digital navigators, located across the state. They service many different regions. And like I said earlier, as we know, these regions have different needs and different resources and different access. So these digital navigators are placed throughout, and what they've been doing since September is really getting into the field and figuring out, okay, what is it that these communities need, and how can I best help older adults? Um, and then a little bit later on in the new year, we're actually creating an official map so you'll be able to see all the digital navigators, their contact information, and the regions that they'll be covering. So I've been talking all about digital navigators and in this project. So what exactly is their role? They have 2 main roles that they serve in this project. One, they are really building an ecosystem and connectors for older adults and organizations that serve them. And they're also being a good digital navigator. So what do I mean by ecosystem building? By that, I mean they are building that trust and relationship with the partner organizations in their various areas. What we're finding out is that a lot of organizations service older adults. We just might not know about them or the little services that they do provide. So we want to make sure that we build that ecosystem and connect everyone. And then on top of that, we also want to support a plan for building and bridging their digital inclusion programming gaps. And I'll show you a little bit later on an example of what that could look like. But other things, a lot of research we found is that a lot of towns and regions do have their own digital equity plans. We just might need a little bit of help pushing those initiatives and their plan all the way through. And so our hope is that our digital navigators will be able to come into these organizations and help them with any needs they have. And then, like I said, actual digital navigation is working with the older adults. So they'll have sessions with them. They'll teach them digital navigation skills and really provide that support that they need. Right here we have is a sample of how we think digital navigators will spend their time. This is not a concrete set in stone numbers. These will change. These have changed depending again on the region and their needs. So as you can see, we think that they'll spend a lot of their time, about 35% of their time, either working and consulting with organizations or consulting and facilitating with resource connections and protection sessions. So those sessions that they have with older adults. And then of course, they'll be training volunteers and then collaborating with other digital navigators. And so in this whole realm of being a digital navigator, as you can see on the left side, this little cycle of just different things that they'll be focusing on and doing throughout the role. Okay. And now we're gonna have an exercise. Sherry, do you want me to lead this one or would you like to lead
Oh,
this?
sure. I'll jump in. That's fine. So we'll just ask you to again interact through the chat will be fine. So this would be a typical interaction that a digital navigator might have. So you meet an adult at a senior center. They have some limited mobility. Occasionally, they might use public transportation to get around. They have said and shared that they want to improve their digital skills. They have some comfortability with learning online, but haven't done much of that before. So with that little bit of information, I'm curious what some follow-up questions you might want to ask to best understand how to design a solution for them. Right? Do you have a computer? That's a big question. What might help with their skills? That's great. Yeah. There's you can loan out assistive technology as well as change settings in your own devices. Tell me more about what you want to do. That's a great question. We never want to assume that we know what someone is interested in doing online. Where would you like to start? And what resources are at the center? That's a great one. Maybe that senior center has computers that they can use there, and that might be a more comfortable solution. Do you have internet at home? And if they don't and aren't interested in setting that up, perhaps it's understanding what other public places are very close to them that they could access internet. Do they live in a multifamily housing apartment that might have internet down in the lobby? Do you have others to help you? That's a great question. Often when we interact with older adults, they might mention, "Oh, I have a grandchild or a son or a daughter that helps me with these things." They often always, or not always, they often also say, "But they go so fast and I don't want to bother them." And so that's another place that working with someone who's not a family member going at a pace that works for them might be a really good solution. Excellent. You guys are definitely tuned into things that could be helpful to investigate. So here are some digital resources, and we can certainly have Cindy share this out with everyone after this that are great for aging adults. I know you all often work with older adults in your roles. Um, Different websites that talk about ways to connect. There are a few that talk specifically about skills. Senior Planet and North Star are really great um, curriculums out there to help people learn. Again, it would depend on the individual whether they're comfortable learning themselves on a computer or whether they need to attend a class. We know that attending things in person, if that's an option, can be a really important way to build connection. Great. I was seeing that there were some classes happening, tech classes. So we have come to the end of what we had available to share. I'm sorry our game didn't work. That was a really fun way to test our knowledge collectively. But we'd love to open up the chat to any questions that you might have about our work or about this Ageless Access project that we have going on across the state. We also have Austin on the call with us. He is working as one of the principal digital navigators to build this ecosystem of support for older adults in the technical world. I saw something about have libraries and senior centers collaborate on tech literacy. That's great. I believe anyone can receive a license to do the Senior Planet curriculum. It's a wonderful thing that has workbooks that come along with it. Yep, we have a lot of libraries are a wonderful partner that teach a lot of digital skills courses. Age requirement. So that is not one specific age. In general, for this project, it is 60 plus, but we know that many senior centers might work with individuals a little bit younger. And so that would not be a barrier, you know, if it's a senior center or library that is hosting a class geared towards older adults and that starts at 50 or 55, that is considered within the realm of this project. The other part that is included would be working with caregivers of older adults. So sometimes we know there might be home health workers or social workers or a variety of individuals that are already working to help take care of older adults. And so there might be resources that we offer to those communities as well. Yes. How would someone qualify for affordable home internet? So at least there is a great, I'm going to put it in, everyone on website, everyoneon.org, that you can put in an address. And it allows you to select if you have any other qualifying aspects. So for instance, if you already receive any additional social service benefits, and it will show you the options of what might be available in your area. Here in Mecklenburg County, if you qualify for, you know, SNAP, WIC, Medicaid, if you're on any of those other programs, you can qualify for a lower cost plan from both Spectrum and AT&T. One thing to pay attention to it is a slower plan. So if an individual is using a smart TV and a smartphone and a laptop, that lowest cost plan might not meet their needs, but that is how you would qualify. The two programs. I believe it might be
in the chat.
Great.
Everything that was on that slide.
And I see a question. Do you have support for those individuals with limited English proficiency?
So currently, as an organization, when we first do an intake with an individual, we let them choose their preferred language. And we have on-call translation services that we can use. So any of our 11 principal digital navigators also have access to that. So if they are calling somebody back, they can get a translator on the phone with them. The other place where this might come out is through the investigations and the research that the principal digital navigators are doing. Let's say, for example, we realize in one of our counties there's a very large population of individuals that speak a certain language. There are unique solutions that may include working with some of the younger generation, training them to be able to volunteer and bridge that language gap. We do know that literacy, you know, also includes it may be native English speakers that have limited proficiency. And we do see that sometimes. We've been involved in courses where the reading level might be quite low, or the ability to type or write out things is quite low. And so that's where some of that one-on-one attention might come into play to be able to support that. I know a lot of our, there might also be settings if it is a reading and writing situation. There might be settings where you can set up your devices to speak to you, and that might help bridge the gap. There are options such as that also in many of the skills online curriculums that are offered, where maybe it's you watch a video and you might be able to have the question asked to you verbally.
Sherry, I know that as we've kind of worked with you guys on the, the digital navigator program, what do you guys think, kind of from your perspective, is the biggest kind of message to our aging providers, to our folks that work in that industry, of kind of encouraging seniors to not be as afraid of technology? I know there's a lot of them out there that are better than I am, and they could teach me a thing or two. But I think for a
Right.
lot of us in the organizations we work with, that is not the norm. That is the exception. And is there kind of any guidance or best practices that our providers can use to, to begin to kind of bridge some of that, in short of just saying, it's okay, it's not that scary, it's, give it a little time, we can all get better at it. But they're like, thank you so much, but I'm not doing that.
Yeah, a great question. I think the very first step is acknowledging where people are at. It's okay. I'm hearing you guys say that this is scary. And, we always love the ability to make a human connection and relate it to, hey, it was scary for me too when I was learning this. A big part that we really stress with our digital navigators is it's so helpful to model to others that you don't know everything either. Technology is going to continue to change. So none of us are going to stay completely on top of it. And just expressing that it's okay to start at the beginning. We're going to do this together. I'm here to support you. I think, again, that's the big key difference between someone who is working in a digital navigator role and just someone who's just teaching a class. So we talk about things, for instance, if a class is being held, also having, whether it's volunteers or secondary teachers, available to walk around and really check in with people. Let them know, like, I noticed you're still on this screen. What other questions are you having? So just taking away any of that shame or embarrassment or fear, and letting them know they're being supported along the way. And I think also being able to talk about the benefits. And again, every person is not going to need or want to know how to do everything. And so really trying to understand, like, what would be helpful to you. I know I was working with an older individual recently, and she was amazed that you could order groceries online, and was like, oh, I want to know how to do that. And so it was really fun to sit down and just show that. And even, even if she didn't immediately go to that method, having the exposure to that being a possibility. And then maybe we come back and we work on actually getting all the things done to make that happen. So I think it's that support, it's that trust that many of you already have. it's understanding what's important to people, right? How amazing it is to not only talk to someone you care about verbally, but be able to use a video feature and see, see that new grandbaby, or talk to somebody and understand what it is that they're trying to describe to you. So making that connection to what's relevant to their life and offering that encouragement and support.
Yeah, I think that that's actually really, really helpful and useful information. And I think a lot of times technology is somewhat just ingrained in society, and we don't think about those folks that are being left behind. The medical profession is almost going exclusively online. You get to the doctor's office, you have to sign in online. They call you, they send me texts all the time. Press C to confirm your appointment. And just the whole social isolation. Oh, that's such a tough word. And the impact that technology can have on that, but it also can unfortunately sometimes foster, feeling isolated, because I can't talk to my family, I can't connect with friends, I can't get online, or I'm afraid to get online.
Right.
And so rather than tell somebody, they just kind of get further and further left behind. So I think, for a lot of our organizations also, it's being very mindful of what you offer as an organization that we assume is accessible to everybody through a digital world, and that there may be a lot of participants that we don't reach or aren't willing to reach because we're not willing to let go or accept someone who doesn't have it.
Mm.
I mean, we have a number of seniors in some of the groups we serve who refuse to get internet, refuse to get, like you said, emails. They're like, nope, not doing it. Thanks so much for asking. But that then excludes them, or could potentially exclude them from, volunteer work, other activities where people go, no, you have to have an email so I can contact you. Or, you have to be willing to get online, to have a presence. And I think sometimes we're so invested in the digital world that we forget that there are people who don't or won't,
Mhm.
and
Right.
making sure that we don't get so focused on digital that we leave people behind.
Right. Which is why some of those incredible in-person options that also include exposure to technology can be really important, because it's, we held one class where we were doing basic computer skills, and it was with a group of older adults at a house of faith. And we, kind of about halfway through the series of classes, the digital navigators that were facilitating it said, well, I think they might have just wanted to get together and talk. And we said, okay, like that is possibly equally important. Um, Also having that opportunity where you might allow the circumstances for peer learning, where it doesn't feel like a younger person is up there telling you what to do, but it's a comfortable environment where you can turn to your neighbor and be like, what? I don't know what this app is. Like, I just ignore it. But maybe maybe the person sitting next to you is like, oh yeah, I know what that one is. I think those sorts of connections are really important. And yeah, you're right, Cindy. I mean, people still should and do have the choice on whether or not they're going to get connected, but it may be those regular tidbits of like, hey, have you seen this? And maybe it's even just a demonstration, right? Maybe you're having something like a lunch that has nothing to do with technology, but there's like, hey, come over and see this demonstration of how you can have a video call with somebody. And so it's just introducing all the different ways in which it can enhance your life should you choose to use it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. And we had a couple of comments also that came in that talks about the fact that we spend a lot of time reminding folks and warning folks about scams and frauds. So it's don't click on this link, don't do that, don't do this,
Right.
don't do that. And then we go sign up for email and they go, absolutely
Right.
not.
Yeah.
You know, so
That
I
is,
do think, you know, that we have to be careful sometimes of the messages that we send. And it also said, you know, seniors who have small screens, especially on their
yeah.
phone, have trouble reading the information. So although they
Yeah.
may begin to have access, they still have limitations.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
really
those
funny.
were all great
My
things.
my own mom has a smartphone and an iPad, but she does all of her things on the phone because that's more comfortable. And she's a big online shopper that for her that is the online connection that is important. And I'm like, Mom, why don't you use your iPad? You can see things because, like it hurts my eyes to look at that little tiny screen.
Mhm.
So, again, that could be another interesting just demonstration of like, what if you had a phone with something and then an iPad set up when something else is happening, just to explain the difference. Or there are things that you may it may be easier to interact with because there may be some typing involved where a computer is more helpful. And
Mhm.
so, that would be an easy way to set up, again, a demonstration to talk about, wow, it's really helpful when you're having to fill out a volunteer interest form. It's easier to type on a computer. And it's okay if you don't have your own. Maybe you can go to the library and here, let me write down this website for you that we've been talking about. So it's just it's providing it's that continuous support.
Yeah. And I think empowering them to the technology that they're better than the technology. Same thing with my grandpa. He has a smartwatch and an iPad and a phone. He's like, I don't know how to do that. And I'm like, yeah, you do. You got it. And just really telling them you can do whatever you put your mind to. Those concerns over scams, we can address them. It is a possible thing that can happen, but you can prevent it. And there are ways that you can learn how to do it. So I just always say, give them that confidence back, put it back in them, especially as an organization, and just tailoring your approach to them and meeting them halfway. I think somebody already said that. I don't want to beat a dead horse.
Well, thank you guys so much. Does anyone have any extra questions? Feel free to put those in the chat. But thank you, Sherry and Kiana. You guys do amazing work. And I know we appreciate the opportunity to work with you through our Digital Nav program. And Austin, who's with us here at Centralina, is our digital navigator for Centralina. So don't hesitate to reach out to him as well as Sherry or Kiana. We all kind of work pretty closely together. And I know Austin has been reaching out to many of the organizations in our region. So if you have not heard from him, you may be hearing from him soon. Just to kind of talk about what you have and where you are and what your needs are and how we can help. So thank you guys so much for your time today. And we really do appreciate it. And we too were successful of navigating our challenging technology this morning. So thank you all for your patience.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great
Thank
rest
you.
of your day.
Thanks, everybody.